The rain pounded the streets of Greenfield Estates as Ava Sinclair hurried home, her heart racing. She clutched the envelope in her trembling hands, its contents more terrifying than the stormy night. The Homeowners Association's latest demand had arrived, a threat disguised as a request. Ava burst through her front door, eyes wild. "They've gone too far this time," she cried, slamming the envelope on the kitchen counter. Her husband, Michael, rushed in, brow furrowed with concern. "What happened?" he asked, carefully opening the envelope. His face turned ashen as he read the HOA's ultimatum, a long list of complimentary goods they expected the local market to provide or face severe consequences. "This is extortion." Ava paced the room, her mind racing. "They can't just bully businesses like this. We have to stop them." Michael placed a steadying hand on her arm. "We need to be smart about this. The HOA has deep pockets and influential friends. Taking them on directly could backfire." Ava's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll have to outmaneuver them. There has to be a way to expose their corruption and take them down for good." Over the next few days, Ava and Michael meticulously planned their strategy. They knew the HOA would be watching their every move, so they had to be cautious and calculated. Ava reached out to local business owners, quietly gathering support and intelligence, while Michael scoured the HOA's bylaws for any loopholes or weaknesses. The tension in Greenfield Estates was palpable as the deadline approached. Ava and Michael made a show of complying with the HOA's demands, carefully documenting every interaction. They knew the crucial moment would come when the local market refused to hand over the goods. On the day of the deadline, Ava and Michael stood beside the market owner, Mr. Patel, as he delivered the HOA's complimentary items. The HOA representatives, led by the domineering president, Olivia Westbrook, inspected the goods with thinly veiled disdain. "This is unacceptable," Olivia snapped, her manicured nails tapping the cardboard boxes. "The quality is subpar and the quantities are insufficient. You will be fined for this blatant disregard of our requirements." Mr. Patel straightened his shoulders, a newfound confidence in his eyes. "I'm afraid I can't comply with your demands, Mrs. Westbrook. This is extortion, plain and simple, and I won't be a part of it." Olivia's face contorted with rage. "You don't have a choice, Mr. Patel. If you refuse to cooperate, we'll revoke your business license and have your store shut down." Ava stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "Actually, Mrs. Westbrook, you're the one who doesn't have a choice. You documented everything, and we're taking this to the media and the authorities. Your days of bullying local businesses are over." Olivia's eyes widened, and for a moment, the unflappable HOA president seemed genuinely rattled. "You can't do this. We have the power to make your life a living hell." Michael calmly handed Olivia a thick file. "That's exactly what we're counting on. Your corruption and abuse of power are about to be exposed for the world to see." The air crackled with tension as Olivia's minions shifted uncomfortably, their confidence wavering. Ava and Michael stood their ground, twin expressions of determination etched on their faces. The battle lines had been drawn, and the war for control of Greenfield Estates was about to begin. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal maneuvers, media attention, and behind-the-scenes power struggles. Ava and Michael had successfully exposed the HOA's extortion scheme, but Olivia Westbrook and her cronies were not about to go down without a fight. Ava spent long hours poring over the HOA's bylaws, searching for every loophole and legal vulnerability. Meanwhile, Michael leveraged his connections in the community, rallying other homeowners to their cause. Together, they waged a relentless campaign to discredit the HOA and strip away its authority. The local news outlets were abuzz with the unfolding drama, with reporters eagerly covering every twist and turn. Ava and Michael made sure to keep the pressure on, holding press conferences and granting interviews that painted the HOA as a corrupt, power-hungry organization hell-bent on controlling the community. Olivia, however, was no amateur when it came to playing the PR game. She responded with a barrage of counterattacks, accusing Ava and Michael of being troublemakers and spreading malicious lies about the HOA's intentions. She even threatened to sue them for defamation, but the couple remained undaunted. "They're just trying to intimidate us," Ava said, her eyes narrowed with determination. "But we have the truth on our side, and we're not going to back down." Michael nodded, his expression grim. Olivia and her cronies are used to getting their way through bullying and manipulation. But this time, they'd met their match. As the battle raged on, the streets of Greenfield Estates grew increasingly tense. Neighbors who had once been friendly now eyed each other with suspicion, unsure of which side they should take. The once idyllic community was quickly becoming a battleground, with the HOA's heavy-handed tactics and Ava and Michael's relentless crusade, creating an atmosphere of unease and distrust. Ava and Michael, however, remained unfazed. They knew that the key to their success lay in maintaining their public image and rallying as much support as possible. Every new revelation of the HOA's corruption, every interview that exposed their abuses, only strengthened their position and eroded the HOA's credibility. As the weeks turned into months, the battle lines hardened and the stakes grew higher. Ava and Michael knew that they were playing a high-stakes game, one where the future of their community hung in the balance, but they were determined to see it through, no matter the cost. The storm clouds continued to gather over Greenfield Estates, and the air crackled with the promise of an impending showdown. Ava and Michael braced themselves, knowing that the final confrontation would be the most crucial and the most perilous yet. The tension in Greenfield Estates reached a fever pitch as the battle between Ava, Michael, and the HOA reached a critical point. Olivia Westbrook, the HOA's ruthless president, had doubled down on her efforts to maintain control, resorting to increasingly underhanded tactics to discredit the couple. Ava and Michael, however, were undeterred. They had carefully built a network of allies, both within the community and among local authorities, and they were determined to expose the HOA's corruption once and for all. One evening, as the rain lashed against the windows, Ava and Michael received an unexpected call. It was from a member of the HOA board, a usually quiet and unassuming figure named Sarah. Her voice trembled as she revealed a startling secret. "Olivia, and the others, they're planning something big," Sarah said, her words coming out in a hushed whisper. "They've been funneling money from the HOA's coffers into their own personal accounts, and they're using that money to buy off local officials." Ava's heart raced as she listened, her mind already wearing with the implications. "Do you have any proof of this?" she asked, her grip tightening on the phone. "Yes, I've been keeping records. Everything's right here," Sarah replied. "But I'm scared, Ava. If Olivia finds out I've been talking to you, she'll destroy me." "Don't worry, Sarah," Ava said, her voice calm and reassuring. "We'll protect you. Just get that proof to us as soon as you can." As Ava relayed the information to Michael, his expression darkened. "This is the break we've been waiting for," he said, his jaw set with determination. "With this evidence, we can finally take the HOA down for good." The next few days were a flurry of activity as Ava and Michael worked to corroborate Sarah's information and prepare their case. They knew that the HOA would not go down without a fight, and they had to be ready for whatever Olivia and her cohorts had planned. Finally, the day of the crucial HOA meeting arrived. Ava and Michael, accompanied by a small team of lawyers and local officials, arrived at the community center, their faces grim and resolute. As the meeting began, Olivia attempted to maintain her usual air of confidence, but Ava and Michael could see the uncertainty in her eyes. When they presented the evidence of the HOA's financial misdeeds, the room erupted in gasps and murmurs of shock and outrage. Olivia's carefully constructed facade crumbled, and she lashed out in a desperate attempt to deflect the accusations. But Ava and Michael were relentless, systematically dismantling her arguments and laying bare the extent of the HOA's corruption. In the end, the HOA's board members, swayed by the overwhelming evidence, voted to remove Olivia and her cronies from power. The community erupted in cheers and applause, finally free from the oppressive grip of the HOA. As Ava and Michael walked away from the meeting, they knew that their hard-fought battle had been won. But the true test would come in the days and weeks ahead, as they worked to rebuild the trust and unity of Greenfield Estates. The downfall of the corrupt HOA regime in Greenfield Estates was a hard-won victory for Ava and Michael, but it was only the beginning of their fight to restore the community's trust and stability. With Olivia Westbrook and her cronies removed from power, the HOA was in disarray, its credibility shattered. Ava and Michael knew that they had to move quickly to fill the power vacuum and ensure that the new HOA leadership would be truly accountable to the homeowners. They worked tirelessly, rallying the community and recruiting a slate of candidates for the upcoming HOA board elections. The campaign was heated, with the former HOA loyalists desperate to cling to their influence and power. But Ava and Michael's relentless efforts, combined with the community's thirst for change, ultimately carried the day. The new HOA board, led by a team of honest and transparent individuals, set about the daunting task of rebuilding the organization's credibility and restoring the trust of the residents. They implemented sweeping reforms, overhauling the bylaws, instituting rigorous financial oversight, and opening up the decision-making process to greater community input. However, the scars of the previous regime's abuses ran deep, and many in Greenfield Estates remained wary and distrustful. Ava and Michael knew that they had to be vigilant, constantly monitoring the HOA's activities and ensuring that the new leadership upheld its promises of transparency and accountability. As the months passed, the community slowly began to heal, and a sense of cautious optimism began to take root. Neighbors who had once been at each other's throats now started to reconnect, rediscovering the shared values and sense of community that had once defined Greenfield Estates. But Ava and Michael were not resting on their laurels. They knew that the battle was far from over and that Olivia and her allies were still out there biding their time and waiting for an opportunity to strike back. One evening, as Ava was walking home from a community meeting, she noticed a familiar figure lurking in the shadows. Her heart raced as she recognized Olivia's chilling stare, and she quickened her pace, reaching for her phone to call Michael. As she approached her front door, Ava felt a chill run down her spine. The porch light was flickering and the door hung slightly ajar. She paused, her hand hovering over the doorknob as a sense of dread began to creep into her mind. Slowly, she pushed the door open, her breath caught in her throat. The living room was in disarray and a sense of unease filled the air. Ava's mind raced, wondering what could have happened and whether Michael was safe. She knew that she had to be cautious, that Olivia and her allies were still out there, waiting to strike. But the thought of Michael being in danger was too much for her to bear. Steeling her nerves, Ava stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of her husband. And then she saw it, a note lying on the kitchen counter, its contents sure to send shockwaves through the entire community. Ava's heart pounded as she read the ominous note left on the kitchen counter. The words seemed to jump off the page, filling her with a sense of dread and urgency. If you want to see your husband again, come to the old mill by midnight. Come alone where you'll never see him alive. Her hand trembled as she clutched the note, her mind racing with 1,000 possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. Michael was in danger, and she knew she had to act quickly to save him. Ava quickly grabbed her keys and rushed out the door, her mind laser-focused on getting to the old mill. As she drove through the rain-soaked streets, she couldn't help but wonder if this was all part of Olivia's twisted plan. The former HOA president had always been ruthless, and Ava knew she wouldn't hesitate to use any means necessary to regain her power. Pulling up to the dilapidated mill, Ava's breath caught in her throat. The place was shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from a single flickering bulb near the entrance. She steeled her nerves and stepped out of the car, her footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. "Michael," she called out, her voice trembling. "Michael, are you here?" A sudden movement in the shadows caught her eye, and she whirled around to see a figure emerging from the darkness. Her heart sank as Olivia Westbrook stepped into the faint light, a twisted smile on her face. "Welcome, Ava," Olivia purred, her tone dripping with malice. "I'm so glad you could join us." Ava's eyes narrowed, her mind racing. "Where's Michael? What have you done to him?" Olivia chuckled, the sound sending a chill down Ava's spine. "Oh, don't worry, your husband is safe for now. But his fate, and the fate of this entire community, rests in your hands." Ava's jaw tightened, her determination burning bright. "What do you want, Olivia?" "What do I want?" Olivia's eyes gleamed with triumph. "I want my power back. I want the HOA to be mine again, to bend this community to my will. And you, Ava, are going to help me achieve that." Ava's heart sank as the realization dawned on her. Olivia had orchestrated this entire scenario, using Michael's life as a bargaining chip to force Ava's hand. The former HOA president was ruthless, and Ava knew she couldn't afford to underestimate her. "If you think I'm going to help you, you're sorely mistaken." Ava spat, her eyes blazing with defiance. Olivia's smile widened and she snapped her fingers. Suddenly, the dim light revealed a figure bound and gagged, crumpled on the floor. "Michael." "Then I'm afraid your husband's life is forfeit," Olivia said, her voice dripping with triumph. Ava's world seemed to slow to a crawl as she watched her husband's terrified expression, her mind racing to find a way out of this impossible situation. She knew that Olivia held all the cards and that one wrong move could cost Michael his life. But Ava was no stranger to high-stakes battles, and she was determined to outwit the former HOA president at her own game. As the rain pounded the crumbling walls of the old mill, Ava knew that the final confrontation was about to begin. Ava's mind raced as she stared at the helpless figure of her husband, Michael, bound and gagged on the floor of the dilapidated mill. Olivia Westbrook, the former HOA president, stood before her, her eyes gleaming with a twisted sense of triumph. "So, Ava, what's it going to be?" Olivia purred, her voice dripping with malice. "Are you going to help me reclaim the HOA, or are you willing to watch your beloved husband suffer the consequences?" Ava's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to show any sign of fear. She knew that Olivia was a master manipulator and that any hesitation on her part could be exploited. "I'll never help you, Olivia," Ava said, her voice steady and resolute. "The HOA belongs to the community, not to you and your corrupt cronies." Olivia's smile widened, and she nodded to one of her henchmen, who roughly grabbed Michael and yanked him to his feet. "Then I'm afraid your husband will have to pay the price for your defiance," Olivia said, her eyes narrowing. Ava's breath caught in her throat as she watched the henchman drag Michael towards a rusted metal chair, his movements brutal and efficient. She knew that she had to act quickly, but her mind was a whirlwind of options, each one more risky than the last. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck her. She remembered the extensive research she and Michael had done on the HOA's bylaws, searching for any loopholes or weaknesses they could exploit. And then she knew exactly what to do. "Wait," Ava cried, stepping forward. "I'll help you, Olivia, but only if you agree to my terms." Olivia's brow furrowed, her expression betraying a flicker of uncertainty. "Your terms? And what might those be?" Ava took a deep breath, her mind racing. First, you'll release Michael unharmed. Second, you'll agree to a full forensic audit of the HOA's finances, with the results made public. And third, you'll step down as president and allow the community to elect a new board that answers to the residents, not to you. Olivia's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Ava thought she might refuse. But then a slow smile spread across the former HOA president's face. Very well, Ava, Olivia said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. You've got yourself a deal. Ava's heart pounded as she watched the henchman release Michael, who stumbled forward, his eyes filled with a mixture of relief and confusion. She knew that Olivia was up to something, that she had some kind of trick up her sleeve. As Olivia ushered them out of the mill, Ava couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking right into a trap. But she also knew that they had no choice. The safety of their community and the future of Greenfield Estates depended on her ability to outmaneuver the former HOA president. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with tension as Ava and Michael made their way back home, both of them wondering what the future might hold. As Ava and Michael made their way back home from the confrontation with Olivia Westbrook, a chill ran down their spines. They knew that the former HOA president was a master of manipulation and that she had likely set some kind of trap for them. Do you really think we can trust her, Ava? Michael asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Ava's jaw tightened. No, I don't. But we didn't have a choice. Olivia was willing to do anything to regain control of the HOA, even if it meant putting your life at risk. Michael nodded, his expression grim. So what's the plan? We can't just sit back and wait for her to make her move. Ava's mind raced as she considered their options. We need to be one step ahead of her. We have to move quickly to implement the changes we demanded and make sure the community is fully on board. As they arrived home, Ava and Michael wasted no time. They immediately reached out to the new HOA board members, informing them of the deal they had struck with Olivia. The board members were initially skeptical, but Ava's unwavering confidence and Michael's meticulous documentation soon won them over. Together, they set in motion a series of sweeping reforms. The forensic audit of the HOA's finances was launched, with the results being made public every step. Meanwhile, the process of electing a new community-driven board was set in motion, with Ava and Michael working tirelessly to rally support and ensure that the right candidates were chosen. Olivia, for her part, seemed to be biding her time, her public persona one of cooperation and conciliation. But Ava and Michael knew better than to let their guard down. They kept a close eye on her every move, watching for any signs of deception or manipulation. As the weeks passed, the community of Greenfield Estates began to heal. The residents, once divided and distrustful, slowly came together, united in their desire to rebuild their once idyllic neighborhood. The new HOA board, led by a team of dedicated and transparent individuals, worked tirelessly to restore the community's faith in the organization. But just as Ava and Michael were beginning to feel a sense of cautious optimism, a bombshell revelation rocked the community to its core. The forensic audit, which had been hailed as a triumph of transparency, had uncovered a web of deceit and corruption that stretched far beyond the HOA's ranks. It turned out that Olivia had been working with a network of local officials and business leaders, all of whom had been profiting from the HOA's misdeeds. The revelation sent shockwaves through Greenfield Estates, and Ava and Michael knew that they were once again at the center of a high-stakes battle. They braced themselves for the fallout, knowing that Olivia would not go down without a fight. The storm clouds gathered once more over the community, and Ava and Michael steeled themselves for the final confrontation. As the shocking revelations of the HOA's corruption scandal swept through Greenfield Estates, Ava and Michael knew that they were entering the final decisive phase of their battle against Olivia Westbrook and her allies. The forensic audit had uncovered a vast network of collusion and self-enrichment, implicating not only Olivia and her cronies on the HOA board, but also a web of local officials, business leaders, and even some members of the community. The scope of the corruption was staggering, and the fallout was immediate and far-reaching. Ava and Michael sprang into action, working tirelessly to coordinate with a new, reformed HOA board and the local authorities to unravel the tangled web of deceit. They knew that Olivia would not go down without a fight, and they had to be prepared for her to pull out all the stops in a desperate attempt to cling to power. The streets of Greenfield Estates became a battleground, with tensions rising to a fever pitch as the community grappled with the shocking revelations. Ava and Michael found themselves at the center of a maelstrom, their every move scrutinized and their every decision questioned. But the couple remained steadfast, their determination fueled by a burning desire to see justice done and to restore the community's faith in its institutions. They worked tirelessly, gathering evidence, coordinating with investigators, and rallying the support of the residents who had once been pitted against one another. Olivia, meanwhile, was not about to go down without a fight. She launched a relentless campaign of disinformation and intimidation, using her vast network of connections to try and discredit Ava and Michael, and to sow doubt and confusion within the community. But Ava and Michael were not to be deterred. They met Olivia's tactics with unwavering resolve, using their own legal expertise and their deep understanding of the HOA's inner workings to outmaneuver her at every turn. The final showdown came in the form of a high-stakes public hearing, where Ava and Michael presented the full extent of the corruption to the community and the local authorities. The air was thick with tension as Olivia and her allies mounted a desperate defense, but Ava and Michael were relentless, methodically dismantling their arguments and exposing the truth for all to see. In the end, the weight of the evidence was too much for Olivia and her cohorts to bear. One by one, they were forced to resign or face criminal charges, their reputations and livelihoods in tatters. As the dust settled, Ava and Michael stood tall, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and pride. The community of Greenfield Estates, once torn apart by the corruption and greed of the HOA, had been restored, and Ava and Michael, the strategic masterminds who had taken on the powerful and won, had cemented their place as the champions of their embattled neighborhood. The streets were still and quiet, the storm clouds finally parting to reveal a glimmer of hope for the future. Ava and Michael knew that the road ahead would not be an easy one, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in store, their bond and their unwavering commitment to their community stronger than ever.